Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all safe and well. This video is an assembly video, as it said on the title. I think it said build, but who cares. It's for an old aircraft. Now this aircraft is at least 10 years old. It's made by Multiplex and it's what you call a receiver ready aircraft. It's a bit like plug and plays these days. Well, not quite, as you'll find out. I had a lot of fun, a few headaches. Some of the things I did might be questionable on it. You have to make your own mind up by watching the video. Enjoy. Today we're going to be assembling the Pilatus PC6. It's what they call an RR, which is receiver ready. Let's go through the parts. We've got the fuselage, one combined fuselage with the fin and rudder. Already attached, already connected. Tail gear, already attached, already connected. Okay, then we've got the manual flapping around in the breeze. I've got a fan on, it's quite warm today. This is in German, English, French, Italian and Spanish. We've then got the tail plane. That is foam hinged, as is the rudder. And next to that I've got a 3-blade prop. Now that is my 3-blade prop. Those of you who follow my channel will know that I've had this awful habit of changing the 2-blade props to 3-blade props because I think it looks better. What I'll be doing is using the 2-blade prop, which is there to start with. We will build it with the 2-blade prop, Maiden it, Maiden plus 1, 2, see how it performs, and then I might switch over to 3-blade. While we're looking at the prop area, we've got some Go Fast stickers. They're basically flames that you put over your engine exhausts and it makes it look faster. I don't know. You've got a wing spar, carbon wing spar, bit of Velcro and a big long screw. And I guess that big long screw is for the tail plane. Undercarriage. This is sprung undercarriage. It's a wireframe undercarriage, but to the left and right you can see these plastic tubes. They actually go into sprung guiders on the actual fuselage, so it springs up and down. Then we've got the main wings. Now I've turned one of the wings upside down. This is the one with the red Swiss cross on it, or the white Swiss cross. MPX stands for Multiplex. They always put that on their aircraft. And then the top of the wing, as you can see here, is an orange colour. Now they do this in 2 colours. They do it in a blue, but the blue looked a bit anemic to me. It's a very pale, washed out blue. I thought I'd want something that pops a bit in the sky, so I decided to get this colour. I've no idea what we have to do first. Let's get the manual up here and take a look. Well, going by our centrefold, ooh, look at that one. Parts which we've been through, we've got to play around with the fuselage. Looks like we do the springs and then put the undercarriage on. Yeah. Then we do the tail plane. I guess pick 18, 19, 20, they must be for the wings. That's pretty straightforward, shouldn't be too bad. Centre of gravity, guess that's saying from the centre of the wing at the leading edge you go back 58 millimeters. There's no range, it just plainly says 58. And that's what we'll do. Now they call this Elapor or Elapor, E-L-A-P-O-R foam. It's my understanding it's the brand name for Multiplex version of EPA foam. And that is it. Yeah, then we go over to the French. Just a warning now, if you hear loads of banging and noises and I get interrupted, we're having a new gas system installed in the house, new boiler, magnetic filters and all that type of stuff. Could take a while. Right, the first instructions are to move this strut so it's pointing down and the picture shows it at 90 degrees. Interestingly enough, the instructions, the written instructions, assume that this is a complete kit. So these parts are already separate based on the instructions, and of course this is a receiver ready version, which means most of the work's been done. So all I have to do is loosen this up and drop this down, if I can get a screwdriver that fits. There we go, and then we tighten that up. There. The next set of instructions talk about putting this spring onto this piece, which is already there. So I have to repeat that on the other side. Fits. That's too big. No, that's fine. This is right. Ah, that was tight. Wow. Okay, that goes down like that. Sorry you can't see, that was really tight. It's now down like that, and this is the spring actually. It's already fitted and covered for protection. Just got to take that protection off it. There we go, there's the spring. Right, now we've done that, we've got to apply these. So this has to go in. It's getting the... I'm pretty sure it's that way, which it is because of the size of these holes. There's no screwing at all. These just push in. There are screw holes, but they're for floats. So this has to go like that, and these have to come in and in like that, and then we have to push it all together. It feels wrong, it's really weird. That's in, that's in. Now I can see how that works. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I guess that's it. That's it. Wow. How easy was that? Blimey. You can see here, if you hit a bit hard, it will spring out. Right. Right, so next is the tail plane. Right, this is one of those tail planes where the actual push rod is hidden. It's actually in here. Here. I've got to work out how you connect that. How? Wow. Yeah, I'm not going to force that. I am definitely going to have to read, because the horn actually goes inside. Stop here. There must be a way of getting that into there. And that sits across there. Wow. Yeah, okay. I need to take a good read. Oh, I switched. Oh. Can you hear that? They're drilling holes through our house. Yeah, right, so I'm still trying to work out how to put this tailplane and elevator on. Okay, I've had a good read. I think I know how to put the tailplane on. And believe it or not, we start from the underside. There's a hatch here. This has to come off. And in there is a push rod with one of those quick connects with a screw in it. You've got to undo that and then pull this part of the push rod back. I'm not sure which one it is though. There's two in here. Let me just find out. Okay, it's not that one. That one's the rudder, so it's this one down here. So if you can see in there. Yep, so it's this one here that I have to unscrew that. God, that's a bit loose, isn't it? Blimey, look at that. I think I'll unscrew that, take that off and tighten it up. There's the push rod. Now that goes from this side. So what the instructions say is that I have to get that as I had it, not quite completely on. Then connect the wire through the appropriate hole here. This is actually a tiny hole with plastic moulding on either side as guides, and this has to go through there. Now, let's see if we can get this on. I pulled it quite a long way back. There we go. Whew. Right, now I have to push this in, but at the same time making sure it goes through the grommet on the servo arm inside this little hatch. And that is easier said than done. That's now sorted the rod situation out, he says. It is, you know. That is crazy nuts. Yeah, and it's gone through. Quite industrial that. It's big, fat, and it needed some twiddling around to make it fit. But it's in, and it's screwing up. I'm just hoping it can go all the way. It said not to do it too tight, or you'll end up crushing foam. I want to go until it's met some resistance. There, that's it. Okay, yeah, and it's flush here, so it's not getting in the way of the rudder. Might as well test the rudder while we're here as well. This model is a, what is it? It's a 2200 3S, that's what it takes. It doesn't have much room. Anyway, let's kick this servo tester and see what happens. Well, not much down on it, but let me centre it. There, that's centred. Oh, as you can see, it's got some up in there, so I'll leave that like that, and then I'll adjust it mechanically. Now let's try the rudder while we're here, might as well. Quite noisy old servos. Let's get them centred. There, that's centred. Now I didn't touch that, and that looks pretty good. Yeah, it looks really good. See that? Can you see that? How that's got up elevator, quite a lot of up elevator. I'm going to adjust that on this servo at the top, but by moving the horn, so the horn's got to come back this way. It's easier if I do it on this side. You're not going to see anything once I get in there anyway. Oh, well, that's how I've set it, but it doesn't look straight on the camera, but it does to the eye. Yeah, that looks pretty straight to me. Might just be the angle I've got the camera at. So we're good there. Next, the wings. And what they say to do is to tape the aileron and the flap connectors together, because they say it makes it easier to handle them. And that's exactly what I'm going to do now. There's a tiny bit of blend-on. The other thing they've done to make this multilingual is they've only put numbers on the connectors. So this, for instance, is 7 and 5, or 5 and 7, however you want to look at it. And in the manual, depending if you're French, German, you look at those numbers and it tells you what they are in your language. Oh, this is going to be a real pain. A couple of things. This is a carbon spar and it goes into the wing here. And there is a screw offset to the spar. If I can show you that. Yeah, I knew it. And what the screw does, it pushes a plastic or a carbon moulding inside there that pinches on the tube. But as it's already been, what shall we say, activated, it was already screwed quite tight, there's no flex or give. And it's quite hard now to get the spar into the wing because it's being blocked. I'm going to have to overcome that first before we can continue. Right, so I think I've sussed that out. It's got a little guide peg here that goes into this hole. This goes into this hole and you drop these in through there. But then you've got to work your way into here so these don't come undone to get what you need. It's not the best idea unless there's a hatch. There might be a hatch, another hatch. So we've got to get that into there, and as you can see it's blocked, but with a little bit of fiddly diddlies. There we go. And it goes up to about here. So this now can go into there. These just go through that big gap, so there's loads of room to get them into there and out of the way. In fact, the cables are massively long. And then you just keep bringing it down, bringing it down. There's a connector here that you have to line up, which again is a little bit dodgy because it's not quite in line. There you go. And you push that wing in quite hard. Push the spar in and do this nut up here. It's not a nut, it's a screw. We do that up there. Tighten that up because it bites onto the spar. That's it. That just crimps the tube that the spar's in. I was wondering if this was a hatch, but it isn't. It's just a hole. Really nice if that was a hatch there, so you could get your hand in there and feed your cables through. Well, anyway, we're still on this part. What we need to do is connect this. And this can move around, and it basically goes over here. It's an R clip. Quite an industrial size R clip as well, this is. Beautiful fit. Wow. There we are. There's one wing on. And you can see how it lines up with the MPX. So I have to repeat that to the other wing. But before I do, how in blazes am I to get the wires that are now inside this cockpit area up here? I mean, even if that came off, it'd be easier. I mean, I don't understand. You're supposed to get your battery and receiver in here. I can't see how you can do that. That has to go as well. These multiplex connectors, I don't use them. Let's change that for an XT60. Let me fiddle around and see if I can pull those wires from this wing forward. Actually, that was the easiest part. Literally, that's crazy. That just turned it upside down, tapped it, it fell to the top. Tip it up on its nose, it fell into the windscreen here. Tapped it like that, it dropped down, and then you just pick it up and pull it through. I thought that would be a real handful, but there it is. Let's get the other wing on. I did an unboxing for this one, but I will just go over it again. These are real hinges. Brilliant. There's no foam hinges here. The stickers leave a lot to be desired. They're all coming off. Now what I've done on this wing, peeled the whole sticker off and laid it back on. And I'll have to do this here because it's all coming up, so you have to peel this whole sticker back, then gradually run it over, and I'll do that now before I attach this wing. Right, so I've done that one. That one's just been pulled all the way off and put all the way back on again. Whether it'll work in the long term, I do not know. So that just goes through the hole there. I'm just feeding all the wire into the fuselage. Loads of it. Stop going in. That one's full. That one's full. Let's put the line down a bit more. Pokey pokey. You wouldn't want to take these wings off, not to transport it. Right, gotta get that. Into that hole. Oof, blimey. Bring that back. Let's get those down into there. Then we can do that. Right, flip it over. Here's the screw we've got to do up. And that nips it on. That just stops the wing sliding on the spar. And this that is such a good fit. He says, oh, there we are. Wow. Let me put this back. That should be a hatch. Yeah, never mind. This has no Y leads. It needs a pair of Y leads, and that's for the ailerons and the flaps. Otherwise you're going to be using 4 channels just for those, which I have no intention of doing. So let me go and see if I've got any Y leads. Right, so they're all connected up. I've got the ailerons on a Y lead. Put the ailerons on. But basically they're working absolutely fine. Let's lock those off. The flaps are a different matter because they're not flaps, but the flap connectors are a little bit different because one of the servos for the flaps need reversing because they operate as if they're ailerons. So I'm going to look to see if I can use both of those in a channel each for flaps and reverse one of them, or I'm going to look to see if I can get an inline reverser and just put it on one of them and then put them into the Y lead. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it yet. Right, so this is the Pilatus PC6. Got a few issues with it. It takes the 2200, which this is, 3S. There's so much cabling in here, you can't get one in. It just won't go. Maybe that way. But then there's nothing holding it. But what I'm going to have to look at is cutting something away. I want to put the receiver in here as well, but there's no way of getting an end. Right, so what I'm going to say is this is not impressive at all here. Speed controller velcroed up there. If this came off and you put the battery in, I'd understand it. But you've got the power lead here. You've got all the connectors here. If you could get your receiver back there, that means the battery has to go here. And if the battery, this particular battery, goes there, the actual C of G is nose heavy. Way nose heavy. So the battery actually has to go that way. Right, that's even nose heavy. Further back, there, it's still nose heavy. That's a beautiful smooth area there. So I could definitely get the battery in and push it there, but how do you get it velcroed in place? And it comes to about here. And with that in the nose, I can almost guarantee that's going to be okay. Yep, look at that. I've just got to work out how do you get the battery into this part of the aircraft and secured. I don't know. I think this has to come off and then I could secure it down. I have to cut this off. I don't know if I'm making myself very clear because I'm losing interest in this aircraft very, very rapidly. No, you still can't see, but the battery needs to be here. It's got to have something to do with this. I might have to do what I did with the Cobra. Take this up. Have that magnetic catches and this piece magnetic catches. So this will hold this in place as well. And then you have to take this off, pull the battery up, and the receiver can go in here next to the speed controller. But that's crazy, that battery is in this position to get the C of G right. And it is a 3S 2200. So this could be right, like that, up against there, and the receiver can go in here, and then the battery goes in there, not without real lot of foam hacking.
346 minutes later.
Well, welcome back everyone, and it is no joke. The gap between the last piece of this video and this piece has been about 4 or 5 hours, and I've been racking my brains trying to fix this problem with the C of G on this without adding weight to the tail. And it's suddenly a flash of inspiration came over me. I took a look at this. Now what are we looking at here? You're looking at a cutaway of the fuselage of this aircraft. And I don't know if you can tell. Motor up at the front. Yes. Speed controller under the hatch at the front. Yes. Battery into the fuselage up to where the windows are. The doors. At the front, and a blinking RX in the body. How do you get an RX into an already sealed up body? I have no idea. What I do, it means some more FT foam hacking, which I have been doing. I haven't quite done that bit yet, but this is where I've got to. thing that we know is we can lift this up, and hey presto, there's your connector. I have to change this. I'm actually putting an adapter on it. Believe it or not, the only adapter I could get from a Multiplex male to an XT60, and it'll be an XT60 male, so it's a Multiplex female to an XT60 male, is China. There is not a single retailer outlet on the internet in the UK that do them. How crazy is that? Cool, there you go. So that's solved. This part is, because that's all this is going to have in it. This is just going to have that speed controller in it. Nothing else. But I need to put my battery in. Well, what you're going to have to do is take this piece off. And now you can get a battery in. Battery, as per the diagram, to get the correct centre of gravity, goes about there. And this goes back there. This bit clips over there. There we are. Look at that. Yeah, so what you have to do is grab this piece by the canopy and just take it off. Then you can get your battery in. It's on Velcro. I might wedge it as well. And it is level with the windows, exactly as the diagram on the box. And then we put this over there, put this piece on, get that in right. Yes, I damaged this foam a bit, but it will just come up like that. I've still got to put a magnet here and here just to latch that down properly, and I've got to let all this dry because it's a little bit wet. But that's my solution and it works fine. The structural integrity of the fuselage is maintained. It's got the carbon spars running through here, and it's got carbon around the window frames, which is still very much in place. So I'm happy with all of that, and it also means I can get the battery and take it out after a flight without messing around. But, and here's the big but, it shows the receiver inside the fuselage. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that. I'm pretty sure I do know what I'm going to do about it, because if we flip this over like so, I think that's too far back. Here, we can do something here with the hatch. I only need to install it once, glue the hatch back, and I'll have it directly under here. So if I need to bind it, I can just put something. Let's check this. Put something a bit longer. Yeah, put it into bind mode, and then I can do a bind.
The next morning.
Finally solved all the issues. Oh, well, I'm well on the way to solving them, I should say. The bubble wrap on here are just the sleeves they came with. I thought it might be a good way to protect the wing when it's in storage. Something I did mention is that these are functional. There's actually holes there and the motor's inside. So as it gives off heat, they come out of here, but they're flexible, so you don't break them off and you can't catch them on anything, which I thought was quite a good idea. So what's the solution here? Well, I showed you it, but it's now totally complete. So this piece lifts up, and then to get the battery in, I then also take this piece off. What I've done, which you wouldn't have seen, is I've added two magnets here and here, one there, one there. The big magnet is over here, and that's really bites it in. These two are basically just to keep it flat, otherwise it has a tendency to sit up. And you put your battery in, some Velcro, that goes in there like that. Nice snap, battery magnets here and here hold it in. and this piece goes in. Now I had to get the receiver in. I'll show you what I have done. This is possibly the worst foam hacking I've done. The foam in the areas I was cutting took me totally by surprise. It was far thicker than I expected. But basically you can see I've cut the bottom away and I've thread all the wires through into here. So I've got my ailerons, flaps, elevator, rudder, throttle all coming up here. Now I'm going to be using a safe AS3X AR630 receiver in this, and it needs to lie flat. It doesn't matter how it's orientated. So it could be on its side, it could be standing upright, it could be pointing backwards, that doesn't matter. But it does need to be flat, or level shall we say. And the only level part in here is the bottom of the main wing, the underside of the main wing, although actually it isn't. It's the underside of the fuselage, and that's where it's going to go. So I'm going to put an AR630 in there. These will all be connected up to it. I will orientate it by using the forward programming. Then I'll select all the Safe Select and AS3X. When that's all done and I'm happy with it, the bottom goes back on permanently. Here are the two bits, because the fuselage is in fact split down the middle. This bit was damaged quite a lot in cutting, so I've actually put cocktail sticks in and I've glued it in, and this piece will glue back into there. This piece obviously glues back into there. They'll glue together. And I'll also use cocktail sticks to hold it in. It's not neat. It's some of the worst cutting I've ever done. And here you can see I've actually ripped it. So I cut so far, I couldn't cut any further, and I pulled it apart. I can't do any of that yet, because believe it or not, here in the UK there is a shortage of AR630s. I've got one on order. I expect to have it here in 2 to 3 days. Or I'll get a phone call from the retailer saying, actually we don't have any of those, because that's happened before. And they'll swap it out for an AR631, which has a long aerial, but that aerial can come through the hole that was in here and just run along the fuselage. Yeah, so that was my solution there, and what it means is the receiver is in the correct location based on the packaging of this aircraft. In fact, it's all done, it's ready. Oh, one last thing. Well, I say it's ready, it's not ready, it's ready for the receiver. One last thing I will say is this piece got damaged quite a lot in the cutting and preparation, but the worst damage on it, I used this Chinese foam glue because I'd cut some foam off on here and I needed to put it back on, and it actually melted the foam. So this has got a permanent dent in it now, that when you put it on, you can actually see here there's a bit of a ridge. It's only a couple of mil, but that was caused by the foam glue itself. But as you can see, that snaps on really well, and it's got a ridge here and a ridge here which matches these ridges on the wing, and it just really snaps in well. And then this is the standard fitting for this. There you go. Blast from the past. It's a bit of a rarity, this one. It's the Multiplex Pilatus PC6. Looking forward to taking this up to the field. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the video. As you can see, I had lots of fun and games with it. At one point in that video I was really about to give up. I just couldn't get my head around what I had to do. And in fact, when I cut the bottom of that plane, it really was much thicker than I had anticipated. And I had to cut as much as I could and then basically break the foam on the rest. I didn't do a good job on that one. At least it's on the belly and it will all be glued, and maybe use a few cocktail sticks just to hold it back together when it's finished. It was interesting though that the cross section of that aircraft on the box clearly showed the receiver in the belly of the beast. It then showed the battery in the cockpit area, if you want for a better description, and the speed controller was all on its own along with the motor up on the nose. That's not how it would have turned out had I not cut foam. Yet I watch videos from 8-9 years ago about it, and people are flying it all over the place, and I'm sure they didn't do what I did. I do have 2 specials coming up, being November, December time. As Keith would say, I'm going to be feeding the monkey, and I'm feeding it big time. I'm getting 2 aircraft, and they're quite expensive compared to what I normally pay for an aircraft. I'm not going to put them in the boxes and keep them in the hangar. I'm going to actually break them open, do an unboxing and do a build and go and fly them. Something to look forward to, maybe. Thanks for watching, stay safe, stay well, and I look forward to you coming and joining me on another video fairly soon. Cheers!